Hello there, I'm Becca Scott, and this is How to Play Painters Corner. Our mysterious maestro, Nox Berf, is adding his artistic spin on each of the 7 monster figures in Horrified Universal Monsters from Ravensburger. Don't forget to check out Horrified Universal Monsters on How to Play and Game the Game, right here on Geek and Sundry. But first, here's Nox entering the tomb of the mummy.
Thanks, Becca. I'm all wrapped up getting this mummy painted, so let's roll up our sleeves and get to work. Before we begin painting, it's helpful to do some prep work. We're going to gather some simple tools and we're going to use them to clean up the imperfections in the model that can happen during the manufacturing process. We're going to use an X-Acto knife or a hobby knife to clean off the mold lines. It's fairly common to have these and it's going to be easy to remove with just a little bit of work. You're also going to want a hobby file and an emery board. We're going to use these to smooth out surfaces to create a perfect finish before we begin our priming process. Now that our miniature has been prepped, we're ready to prime. To do so, we're going to start with a basic black undercoat. Now I'm using an airbrush to do this, but don't be intimidated if you don't have an airbrush. You can do this with an aerosol spray can that you can get from a hobby store or from online. Once you have the black undercoat completed, what we're going to do is we're going to use a white ink. And that white ink is going to be sprayed in one direction over the black undercoat. And it's going to create what's called a Cinephile Highlight. And what that's going to do is it's going to simulate light and shadow, depth and nuance on our miniature. Now we're ready to base coat the mummy, and we're going to use some different techniques to do this. First thing that we're going to do is we're going to choose a rich brown tone and create the underlayer for all the bandaging and skin. Then we're going to differentiate both the skin and the bandaging using a dry brush on the bandages and a slow process of highlights on the skin to create a yellow desiccated look. Now for the details of the mummy, it's fairly straightforward. We're going to use a dry brushing technique. We're going to take an off-white paint and we're going to wipe away as much of the paint as possible until you can't really see it on the bristles. And you're then going to work it across the details of the miniature. This is going to create a dusty and aged look. Once that's done, I'm going to go back in with a regular brush and pick out each of the bandages that I want to draw attention to. And I'm going to do this at the edges, much like our edge highlighting technique, to draw even more contrast and separation. Once that's completely dry, I'm then going to finish it all off with a wash. Now a wash brings even more contrast to the table and helps to even everything out. It creates a mucky sort of aged look. And with that, your mummy's ready for the gaming table. And that is the mummy, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, we'll be painting the rest of the Universal Monsters right here on Geek and Sundry. If you want to see some other Universal Monsters in action, tune in to Game the Game, coming to you on October 3rd. And be sure to check out Horrified Universal Monsters, available now at Amazon, Target, Barnes & Noble, and your local hobby store. I'm Nox Berf, and I'll see you next time.